Shiatim. My name is Darius. Today, I'll be recreating another Mesopotamian dish. This time, it's an ancient Elamite soup from a Bronze Age civilization in southeastern Iran. The original recipe comes from the Yale Cuneiform collection and describes a foreign dish, in their words. It is fairly similar to my pašrūtum stew from a few weeks ago, but has some very regional variation in it, which indicates a cross-cultural exchange of cuisine in the Bronze Age. In any case, let's take a look at the world that was. To begin with, the recipe calls for fat. Again, this could mean sheep fat, but you could easily substitute it for butter or olive oil. Here, I'm putting 1 tablespoon's worth of olive oil into a pot, and then putting the pot onto a medium-high heat. While this is heating up, you'll want to go slice a whole washed leek into small discs, each one about as wide as a finger. Much like pašrūtum, we want everything to cook at about the same rate. Keep the leaves in the very base of the leek for vegetable stock or a garnish for later if you want. In any case, cut up about 250 grams worth of leeks or 1 very large leek like here. Toss them into your pot when the oil starts to shimmer but isn't smoking. Put a lid over this and let it sweat away for about 5 minutes. While your leeks are sweating, go deal with your other ingredients. First, go grab an onion and chop it in half. I'm only going to be using half an onion here based on the size of the dish, but you can easily scale it up so you don't have to throw away half of an onion. In any case, slice and dice this into small, similarly sized chunks like I'm doing here. Or you can even cut it into rings if it's faster for you. I'm not here to judge. Put your chopped onion into a bowl for later. Now, go grab a shallot. Slice it as thinly as you can, and then chop it into a very fine mince. It doesn't matter if it doesn't look very neat or tidy, because everything will look great in the finished dish. In any case, chop your shallot into the same bowl as your onions. Now it's time to deal with some dill. You can easily use dried dill, but I'd recommend using fresh dill as it has a much more powerful taste. To cut this easily, just roll a few sprigs into a very tight ball and chop it like this, so you can quickly mince it. Cilantro was heavily used in Mesopotamia, but dill seems to be almost exclusively used in Elamite cuisine. Its inclusion in this recipe suggests that this may have been an acquired taste for the Sumerians, or at least an indicator of a large Elamite population within Sumer. Either way, it's definitely a marker for some kind of unified cuisine that separates wider tastes between Mesopotamia and Iran in this period. In any case, put your minced dill into a bowl and head back to your pot. At this stage, your leek should be starting to turn slightly translucent at the edges of the stems and should be smelling amazing. Turn the heat down to medium-low and stir them. Toss in the remainder of your ingredients, the onion, shallots and dill, and stir it all together until it's well combined. Also, crush a whole clove of garlic into the mix as well. At this stage, if you want, you can add a tablespoon's worth of cumin to the mix to improve the final flavour. Strictly speaking, this isn't actually mentioned in the original recipe, but it's definitely not outside the realm of possibility that this spice would have been used in the context of the ancient Near East. In any case, mix everything together and then pour a cup's worth of water on top of it. Put this back onto the heat and bring it to a boil. When it hits a rolling boil, turn the heat down to low until it just simmers. Leave this alone for about 15 minutes. Let this reduce a little before adding about a half cup's worth of soured milk. You can make this at home by simply getting some milk and leaving it somewhere warm for a few days, or, if you're short on time, you can add a couple of drops of vinegar to some fresh milk and let it thicken a little bit. You could, of course, just use fresh milk, if this all sounds like too much trouble, but you'll miss some of the more subtle flavors that the sour milk adds. The Sumerians would have used any kind of milk, but I'm going to be using cow's milk here, but if you have access to goat or sheep milk, that may be more accurate for this recipe. Either way, add about a half cup's worth of your milk to the pot and stir it to combine. Leave this to simmer and reduce for another 5 to 10 minutes, or until the broth thickens a little bit. The original recipe also calls for blood to be added at this stage, which would add a very metallic undertone to this dish, as well as a bit of colour. However, blood's a bit difficult an ingredient to get a hold of, for cooking anyway, so I'm omitting it from this recipe. However, Bronze Age cooks would possibly have used sheep, goat, or even ox blood when making this dish. Putting that aside, when your broth looks like this, and the leeks are very tender, plate up into a nice bowl. If you want to add a simple garnish, cut a thumb-sized ring of leek and try and push the ring segments like so. It'll form a nice looking edible garnish. Plus, I also personally think it looks like a stylized ziggurat at first glance, but of course you can omit this if you want. In any case, plate up and dig in. This broth is, much like pašrūtum, very simple and quick to make, but is incredibly tasty. The dill adds a sort of sharp undertone to the broth and is offset by the sour milk. The leeks and onions are toothsome and flavourful, improved by their time spent boiling. The cumin was a decent addition and added a very mild kind of earthy taste and warmth to the final dish, which I feel fits the rest of the flavours. Elamite broth appears to be eaten by some of the more affluent members of Sumerian society, given the relatively foreign ingredients that may not have been readily available to your everyday Sumerian. In contrast, this could also just be a relic of Elamite culinary tastes, which, to my knowledge, do not really survive to modernity. I hope you all enjoyed this look at the world that was. If you like what I do, feel free to like this video and subscribe to my channel for more ancient recipes.